Today I want to talk about the charging situation for drivers who live in multifamily housing. And this could be apartments that you either own or you don't own. Most likely you wouldn't own it. And I want to speak both to the drivers and potential drivers in this situation and landlords in this video. Because I think I have come across a really innovative solution to the problem of charging in multifamily dwellings. So what exactly is the issue? Some apartment complexes are starting to install level 2 charging, and in fact in California it's beginning to be legislated, and perhaps in some other states as well. But that can get very expensive very quickly for the landlords, and there's a couple reasons for that. One is just the units themselves. So if you get a regular home style wall box unit, those will be $600 to $1,000, but they don't have the ability to meter power based on who's using it. If you want a unit that can meter power, you're looking at commercial units, and those can be quite a bit more expensive. The biggest issue though is installation, and that has to do with running 6-gauge high-powered wiring throughout your parking garage and connecting it into your panel, and then figuring out the whole distribution network because your main panel may not be able to handle the load. And so that can get very expensive very quickly, and you're kind of capped by whatever your electric supply is into your facility or into your community. So one option is to install a bunch of 120 volt outlets. So this is a 20 amp 120 volt outlet, and you can do up to 16 amps of charging on this at 120 volts. And that will give you somewhere in the range of 1900 watts delivered to the vehicle, which isn't great, but it's good for 4 to 8 miles of range per hour, or somewhere in that ballpark. So it's not great, but it's doable and it's better than nothing. And once again, you don't have a method of metering power to different people, so the landlord could just include it as an amenity. That might be a decent way to go. Much cheaper to install because these use 12-gauge wire versus the 6-gauge that you'd be running to either a larger NEMA outlet or a hardwire unit. And copper goes up in price quite a bit as you go to those larger diameter wires. You also need larger conduits. There's a lot of different reasons. So back late last year, I came across a solution that I thought was really brilliant, and it is this orange thing on the wall here. It's actually called an orange outlet. And what the company Orange does is they create these NEMA outlets with some smart features built inside of them. Now, it's a little more than a typical smart outlet because it's built for this application, but what it allows you to do is essentially meter power to different people who want to use the outlet. And Orange claims that they are a payment company more than a charger outlet company, and in as such, they're really concerned with how they bill the landlord and making sure that that whole infrastructure to do that is really robust and works really well. And in my experience so far, it does. So this is their NEMA 620 outlet. They also have a 520 outlet. And the difference between the 620 and the 520 is a 120 volt outlet. The 620 is a 240 volt outlet. And frankly, this is a brilliant option that I've never seen anybody else really go after. Although Tesla does have an adapter for that. So there's two ways to increase the charge rate to your vehicle. One is to increase the current, and we're all familiar with that. You increase current, you get a faster charge. The other one is to increase voltage. And if you're on a 120 volt outlet and you go to a 240 volt outlet at the same current, you will double your charge rate without having to spend more money on copper, because the copper is the same diameter as the 120 volt 20 amp. So that's really a brilliant solution to make this much more accessible, much more cheap to install. Orange claims that this unit is about 75% less expensive to install than, say, a standard level 2 charger, and I believe it. It's pretty inexpensive. It's only $350 as it stands today, both for the 120 and 240 volt version. And then, like I said, the wiring is significantly less expensive. So the installation costs and the ease of installing this outlet is where this really shines. When I got the unit, I simply took it out of the box. It actually came with some really nice Wago connectors. From there, I just had to run some 12-gauge wire, which will handle the 20 amps, to the outlet. Since I'm running through conduit, I ran a stranded wire, but it could be Romex, just like you'd have on a standard 120 volt outlet in your house. Connect the wires to the wire stubs, power the thing up with a double pole 20 amp breaker, and we're essentially ready to go. The unit itself It looks very nice. It has this nice orange ring logo with lights, indicator lights to show you status. And then in the center of that is a QR code that we will use to reference this particular charger and bill to this charger and unlock it in the app. There is safety features built into this like GFCI and some other things like temperature monitoring that Orange uses to make sure that your charge is always safe even when you're powering a fair amount of power. And also the prongs in the outlet itself are more robust, so you can plug in and out more frequently without destroying the outlet. So standard outlets, there is a lifetime on how many times you can plug and unplug before the outlet fails. So they've beefed that up so that it'll last longer. There are some interesting things here with this that you wouldn't necessarily consider. One is that Orange has not included the charger as part of their unit, and the reason they do that is simply to keep the cost down, as well as to just reduce maintenance costs for the property owner. And really this is designed to be extremely low maintenance and be something that can be installed and kind of forgot about, and you collect revenue off of it based on how much you want to charge your residents. So before I show you how this thing works, I just would like to ask you guys for a little favor. I have a little charging survey. It take less than 5 minutes. It's down in the description. And if you do this in the first month of this video being live, we will have a few gift cards kind of drawn at random for people who take the survey. So how does the Orange charger work? Well, first you got to install the app, and currently the app is still in beta, but it's becoming very well defined, and I wouldn't be surprised they will move that out of beta very soon. Once you install the app, it depends if you have an outlet to install or whether you're a user, what your next steps would be. But either way, you're going to create an account, you're going to put in payment information, and Orange has made it really easy to do that. If you want to use Apple Pay, you just click the link and it'll set it up in a couple seconds. And once you have your outlet connected, you install that through the app, and a landlord or somebody who has multiple ones of these units can install those so they have them under a single property. And the interface there is pretty neat that Orange is developing. Now, things aren't fully featured yet. Like I said, it's still in beta, so things are developing as we speak. But so far, I'm very impressed with their app and how things are laid out in that regard. If you're a user and you want to charge your car, you simply plug in your mobile connector. There's no power going to the mobile connector yet because the relay inside the unit has not flipped. You simply scan the QR code on the unit. It connects to the unit by cellular network or Bluetooth mesh network, and you can see it started charging. Now, once it's charging, you can do things like end the session remotely, in which case that will eventually trip the relay. You see it turned off again. We can start it again by scanning. So now it should turn back on again. Yep, it does, and we're good to go. So it's working perfectly well. Within the app, there's some other things in here that are pretty neat. You have charge history. You can go and look at your charge history, and then click on a specific charge and see the details on that. I don't have a lot of details on a lot of these because they're kind of empty. But so here's a particular old one from a little bit ago. You can see the cost that I would have paid, as well as the fee that I would have had to pay to Orange Charger, and then the total amount of energy put into the car. If you're the property owner, you have some tools as for managing your property. Currently, some of these for me aren't working quite right. And then finally, on your profile page, you have things like your payment details and your address, etc. So a pretty straightforward app at the time being. I know Orange is going to roll out a lot more features, and once it gets released to the public, this should be a lot better. Overall, I really like this charging idea and this concept. I think it can apply to a lot more places, and I know that Orange is wanting to expand into other markets beyond multifamily eventually. There's a really great podcast on the Living Electric podcast with the CEO of Orange. Honestly, go take a listen to that. I'll put a link down in the description. I think that the Orange Charger is a big win, and I'm really excited to see where the company goes with this product and how it gets rolled out in a lot of different contexts. And I know I'm on the East Coast. In the West Coast, they've been installing it in quite a few rental properties already. But like I said, I'll keep my eye on this, and there may be more content in the future based around this system. So feel free, comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Orange Charger. And if you have any questions, hit me up on that as well. And I will see you guys in the next one.